I'm Mr. Rosansky, and this is a speed run of Practice Test 7, the first module, the A module, the medium one. So let's start it like all the other ones, and let's head straight for the first conventions question. Not this one, but it is this one. And we know what to do. These are verbs, plural, singular, plural, plural. I have an odd man out, so I'm going to suspect it to be subject-verb agreement. Go looking for a subject. This thing, whatever this thing is most certainly singular. Pick it and move on. I've got another conventions questions, more verbs. So I've got a singular, a both, and a singular. So I'm going to consider tense. I've got the present, the future, the past, and I've got the present. I've got these two presents here. I'm going to hope it's one of the other ones. As I go looking, I see the present, which is unfortunate because that seems to be the tense that I'm in. So I'm going to slowly read it, and I see something very important. This is inspired means that I have a clause over here, an independent clause, because I see no subordinating conjunction or anything of the sort. Then I see another potential subject, and I see potential because if I were to choose this A or this D, I would have these two complete sentences joined by just a comma, which is absolutely offensive. Right now, even though C was in the past, this was actually a neither, because characterized can be a past participle, and that's what I want here, right? I can imagine a that is characterized by the use of. This is a reduced participial phrase. Sneaky is 17. Rarely does this happen, but when it happens, we can be ready for it. I see that this offers a comma, this one offers a space, this one offers a period, and this one offers a coordinating conjunction. Let's not forget to add that this coordinating conjunction is awfully lonely, and so is this comma. I'm going to consider this to be the complete sentence mix-up since I've got these two lonely guys and a period. Biasing the period, I'm going to go looking. Scholars dreamed seems like an independent clause over here, complete sentence. And on the right side, that is swappable with the, means it's a determiner, meaning that I have a complete sentence on the right. Fantasy became, therefore, I'm going to pick C because that's the only way to join this. Complete sentence mix-up. I've got a conventions question, and I see a little semicolon and a period, so I'm going to go chasing that semicolon. I do not see another semicolon, therefore I don't have a complex list. Therefore, I can get rid of A and C. Then this little dashy poo, I don't see another dash, but I'm not going to kill him for this reason. I'll consider maybe he's functioning like a colon. As I go looking for this, I don't have a complete sentence, wouldn't use a period here. Therefore, B falls, need this D to end this clause initial prepositional phrase and its associated phrases. I've got pronouns here with their verbs, but there's no problems with subject-verb agreement. Plural and plural, plural and plural, singular and singular, singular and singular. So I'm going to consider the number. I've got plural, I've got singular, and I've got singular. These demonstratives, time and a place, but it's usually one of the personal pronouns. So I'm going to go looking for my antecedent. Who or what is the they or it? As I track backwards, I've got a given industry as my suspected antecedent. Carries high infrastructural startup clause and other that zero companies. A given industry often consists. A given industry consists. Keeping it straight up there. As I read our first transition question now. Measurements taken in 2023 showed that the tower was rotating in a concerning way. They closed the area to stabilize. This seems pretty strophe-sounded because it was rotating concerningly. It was concerningly rotating menacingly. It's just standing there. Because it was rotating concerningly, they did do a shutdown, right? The city officials shut it down. The area around, cause and effect. I'm taking a little bit too much time to have fun with these questions. We've got another transition question. We've got the regulating of carbon dioxide over here. We're regulating a plant's water loss. These are different things, but I've got nothing spicy in here that shows this is any sort of contrast. Previously, I don't have anything to show like a sequence notion. I wouldn't know what I'm concluding here, but I do find this comfortable concept that pink is not blue, but it supports the overarching concept of what these specialized cells do. Additionally, gets my pick. Another transition question. I read the previous sentence. She ready-made sculpture fountain to challenge then prevailing conceptions about the nature of art. Did just that. Raising question into a legitimate order. So she did just that. These are agreeing with each other. She wanted to challenge and she succeeded. I don't have it instead. I wouldn't know what to do for similar because it's the same thing. It's what she wanted to do. It's almost like an example, but it's not exactly a for example. And then addition isn't right because this isn't a secondary thing to support an overarching concept. It's just an indeed. She wanted, indeed she did, she succeeded. Oof, another transition question. I go looking to the sentence before. I've got this long dash thing. And I'll start at the start of a model. There's that little past participle coming up again. If you want some reinforcement there, we can go a model that was developed, right? This isn't telling me when, even though it is the past. A model revealed, a model revealed seems important. A model revealed that the same supernovas did this thing or likely responsible for the formation of new stars. This model detailed how the bubble's expansion trapped interstellar clouds of glass and dust and became stars upon their eventual collapse. This is like explaining the formation of new stars. It's not a cause and effect because it's the exact same thing. It's not admittedly because we're not making any sort of concession. It's just specifically. Finally, onto these easy peasy notes. 6 minutes down. We want to contrast these two songs. The song This and This both raised awareness. This seems to be a similarity. While both are protest songs, is about there's a similarity, but then it shifts to this thing, whereas double contrast. I love this. Bring them home, released in this. This is just a singular idea. There's no contrast here. And this one is wrong for the same reason that C is wrong. We want to present the conclusion of this study. Awesome. Didn't mean to do that. We want to present the conclusion of this study. Like Tibetan wolves can withstand hypoxic conditions at high altitudes. That seems to show. Both mastiffs and wolves have mutations in their genes which prevent excess. This seems like a conclusion as well. In addition to preventing excess hemoglobin production, a mutation, this seems like a conclusion. And by acquired, they acquired. Man, these all feel absolutely solid as a conclusion, which means I have no idea what the conclusion is. So I'll peek the notes and I land on what they determined. What it was that they determined was that the dogs first acquired mutations by interbreeding with Tibetan wolves 24,000 years ago. My mind immediately goes here. By interbreeding with wolves, make sure that these facts are right, by interbreeding with wolves, which they absolutely did 24,000 years ago, acquired the genetic mutations that enabled them to withstand this. These mutations, absolutely. The rest of these must just be things that led to the study or pointed them in the right direction. Here's my conclusion, guided by this determined. I want some disadvantages of docked and dockless. I know that this is going to look for disadvantages of this thing, and I want disadvantages of the dockless. Dockless program can be disorganized. Docked programs, on the other, offer order and consistency. This is one disadvantage in the opposite side of the coin. I don't have a disadvantage of the other one. A falls. Worth noting is that while dockless programs are relatively easy and inexpensive to implement, they are relatively easy and inexpensive. They are less flexible than docked programs. I kind of like this one. Docked programs are more resource intensive than dockless programs, but they avoid, I like both of these. And then I look for D, though dockless programs offer flexibility, docked bike share programs provide bicycles for shared users. These all felt chill on this initial speedrun read as I'm talking out loud, so I'll focus on this one. The dockless programs offer flexibility. Is that a true statement? Whenever they want, that does seem flexible. Absolutely, I can grant that flexibility to riders. Docked, they both do, right? It says right there, they both do. D is a liar. Worth noting is that while dockless programs are relatively easy and inexpensive to implement, they are less flexible. Then this gives a positive and a negative of just one. Docked programs are more resource intensive than dockless programs. Docked programs are more resource intensive. Right here. True, but they avoid some of the latter's organizational challenges. There's that other negative, -1, -2. The latter's organizational challenges. Dockless can be disorganized, hard to organize. I love this. This is my answer. Pick it, move on with my life. As I come back to these, 9 minutes. That was one of the slower ones, but we'll be fine. I start looking thus, they already thrive. So my signal element is going to be thus, they already thrive is going to be my context clue, which means that they adapt to, they top G's. Clear. The water was so clear that it was almost invisible, and when we floated out, we seemed to miraculously stand. Just going to be transparent. We're looking for signal elements. The recently observed, this is my blank. I don't see anything there for a burst by the merger. This bursts caused by neutron mergers typically last fewer than 2 seconds. I didn't find any signal elements, but I have the context clues, and these are wildly different. An oddity is going to get my pick. This is going to be a signal element that bumps me back to this direction. I've got this popular thoughtfulness. Esteem seems to be about popularity, to be held in esteem, well liked. I like it. Now we're going to go looking for our underlined sentence. Many scientists at the time believed that the ocean floor was mostly flat. It identifies a specific belief that Tharp and Heezen showed to be wrong. This seems chill so far. It describes the design of the Tharp. This is not the design. This is a belief people have. It emphasizes a disagreement between Tharp and Heezen. Maybe he's one of them. One of them is one of the scientists. It presents data to support a claim that Tharp and Heezen made. This doesn't seem to present data unless they both were part of the many scientists. So I think that it's A, but I'm just going to read to see if these are disagreeing people or same people who might be the many scientists. We've got contrast, these people working together. These fall, A wins. Describe the underlying phrase in the text as a whole, particularly at a time when manufacturing of new television sets was stalled due to the U.S.'s involvement in WW2. It compares the beginnings of radio program with the beginnings of television programs. I do not see any language in here that would imply that there's going to be this, but I do have a notion of when, so that's kind of okay. It identifies a specific reason between some advertisers' hesitance to support television. I absolutely love this. I could see the stall due to the involvement being satisfactory of that, and I'd be lying to say that I couldn't just like peek up and see this word right here about hesitation, but I'll keep reading. It describes that Brand attempted to convince advertisers. It does not do that. It explains why it was popular. It does not that. This seems to be like a negativity, right? They couldn't access television. I don't know anything about programming. Then when I'm comparing these two things, I'm not talking about the radio at all. This is B. The main purpose of Z text, I can jump down here to the final sentence where I like to start my fight. I've got a moreover. I'll jump it back one. Peck and colleagues recently found that periostracum, this thing, prevents the dissolution when intact. And they were surprised to discover peri stops the dissolve, and even if it does not stop, these little thingies, pteropods, sounds like Tide Pods, don't eat them, pteropods can still be okay. This seems to be my summary of these two sentences. This seems to be a bulk of the text, so I'm going to start seeing what I can eliminate because they don't even engage with this. To call for additional research on biological mechanisms that improve the survival rates, they seem to be just fine, and there's no call to action here. To discuss a conclusion drawn in a study of calcium carbonate and protecting these things, it seems to be discussing a conclusion. I'm okay with that. To address some of the ways ocean acid has altered the behavior over time, I see nothing about the over time being involved in this statement. And then I got D to present findings that suggest that a concern about the effects of the acid may be unwarranted. Can still, this, I missed the signal element at first, but now that I pop over, I see this, that they're so resilient despite things. And that does agree with the may be unwarranted. I really like this. When I go back to B, both of them seem chill. To discuss a conclusion drawn in a study of the role in protecting the peri. No. The peri protects this. I'm going to read a little bit more. No. Wrong-go, bongo. This is, the problem here is this. It's the peri that protects the other thing, not the other way around. D's the right answer. It's got to be. I want to read text 2 to clap back to this statement here. So I'll start reading and summarize. Ultimately, any plausible claim about the inception of tectonic movements must use rocky records. Next sentence. The person and his team looked at crystals. used crystals, used the rocky records to come up with a number. I feel very good about that summary. I'm going to see how they caught back to A. Little is known about the plate tectonics wherein a slabs of Earth's crust move over and under begin. Some researchers contend. What do they contend? That tectonic movements began, okay, they think that it's 4.2. Oops, I'll adjust that. Come up with 4.2, so they would disagree with that. But this first sentence, ultimately, any plausible claim, it kind of doesn't match with my must-use rocky records. I'm going to keep reading. Often noting that computer models of Earth's mantle at this time indicate that the mantle would have been sufficiently molten. This is everything, right? They have this conclusion, but how they got there were computer models, which seems to disagree with the fact that they didn't use those rocky records. So they use computers, and computers are absolutely trash. Unless you're taking the SAT, then they're pretty exciting. Rocky records, and then I start looking. By suggesting that the temperature of Earth's mantle was insufficient. I don't know where this temperature is coming from. I just seem to have information about rocks v. computer models predicted by but they would have trashed the computer models, right? This first sentence is all about that you can't trust computers. By distinguishing between computer models of Earth's mantle that rely on the onset of and those that do not. Nope, the problem is not that some computer models are better than others. They would say that none computer models are the absolute best. By indicating that computer models of Earth's mantle are still being improved, such that new models, I don't know if they would ever say that a computer model was chill. Let's hope that D trashes computer models by asserting that a more definitive form of evidence than the computer models. Yeah, they trash computer models. And this is the only one that does. A different timeline, and that agrees with the original idea up here, that 4.2 ain't this. Which statements about the octopus garden is best supported by the text? So I'm going to go looking for a detail about the octopus garden. None of these pop out as a simple thing to spot. I see all these numbers, so I'm going to give it a read. They discovered a whole bunch of these guys, 3,200 meters. Water temperatures at this place ranged based on observations made over 3 years. They decided the temperatures are reproductive benefits. Okay, that seems important. Exclusively for reproduction, 6,000 adults hatching in reserve, but no juveniles were present. M. robustus leave the octopus garden upon reaching an intermediary stage of development. This one tracks to me. We've got adults, we've got hatchlings and eggs, but no juveniles. This is what I would cite most for this, and I absolutely love my support for this one here. And that's what we're trying to do in the best supported by the text ones, is find evidence from the text. The population remains stable despite, we do have water temperatures changing, but I don't have any comment about the stability. I just have one number. I can't support that. The next I contain the average fewer larger age. I don't remember reading anything about size, and then provides an ideal feeding ground for the hatchlings. I don't remember reading anything about snacks. No, that doesn't seem to be it. I like that this is supported here, so I pick it and move on. Main idea of the text. I'm going to go to this final sentence and hopefully fight my fight here. Log jams create shady pools where the blueback salmon can rest and spawn, thus promoting recovery. Thus promoting recovery seems to be important. The importance of collaboration doesn't seem to be present in this one, so we'll make him fall. Nature-based approaches can be an effective way to achieve conservation goals. This kind of agrees with the thus promoting recovery, so we'll let that one survive. As indicated by a recent project, logjams help the blueback salmon thrive and reproduce. That one seems to be chill. It engages with the thus promoting recovery. Scientists now realize that nature-based offer better long-term solutions to environment than methods that are not nature-based. This seems to show some sort of conflict that I don't see present there. These all seem okay. I'm going to go back a sentence. In the response to rapidly dwindling population of blueback salmon, partnered with the naturally occurring logjams in the river. I don't like this, but it's tough on this one, as indicated by a recent project. This feels contentious, right? I like this, and if it didn't have this first clause here, I would probably pick C and move on. But the as indicated by a recent project for a main idea, I imagine that the text would say something like, previously people thought logjams were trash. However, as indicated. But I don't have any signal elements for that. All I got at the start is that the world can work together to save some things. And that makes me want B to be my option. Interesting. If this weren't here, though, I would full send C because the bulk of this ending is just about the log jams. But this is screaming to me some sort of contention that I can't find present. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go. A world of time. And this hideous, hideous little chart. So we're going to support a researcher's conclusion. What be the conclusion? They conclude this relative ranking of candidates persisted, except among the participants with high ignobility scores. However, when the research factored in the participant's own personality on a scale of 1 to 7, I don't really know what that means. There was a strong positive correlation between participants' ignobility scores and admirable trait candidates' likability, but there was no correlation between ignobility scores and ignoble trait candidates' likability. I need to understand this chart. So we've got participants' likability ratings for candidates by candidate traits and participants' ignoble trait scores. So we've got two different groups of people. We've got people who are participating in the rating of someone, these candidates, how likable they are. And we've got admirable trait candidates, and we've got, I guess, less than admirable trait candidates. So as participants' badness goes up, their likability for badness goes up. And as a participant's, I'm pausing here because I know I need to juggle these concepts. And as a participant's badness goes up, their like for a good person stays the same based. So there was a strong positive correlation between participants' ignobility scores and admirable traits. That's not true. As the participant went up, ignobility stayed the same. We would want these two variables to work together. So A is a lie. Participants with an ignobility score of 5 or less, a participant with an ignobility score of 5 or less, this way, rated admirable trait candidates as more likable than ignoble trait candidates. Less likable, more likable. Yes, that's true. Whereas participants with 6 or higher rated ignoble trait candidates equally likable. This is true. I like B so far. If I were running a long time, I'd just pick it and move on. This is overwhelming. C, overall participants rated admirable trait candidates as quite likable. Okay, I guess. And the rating was not significant. I guess that's true. Fair. Unlike participants with an ignobility score of 6, participants with an ignobility score greater or less than 6 gave admirable trait candidates and ignored that they're different. So besides this one, they said they were different. Fine. I go looking. However, when the research factored in participants' own personality traits score, they concluded that this relative ranking, I'm going to go back a sentence because this is kicking me back one. The survey recorded that across participants, ignoble traits were less liked than admirable. So, less liked. However, when they started considering the own evilness of the people described, on a scale of 1 to 10, the relative ranking of candidates persisted except ones with high. So we want some sort of change when it gets to high. This does not present any change. This does give us change, but it was giving us change both above and below, and that's not what I want. This is saying that below, they liked the admirable, but once we got to a certain level of toxicity within the participants, they started loving toxic people. So let's go and weaken a claim here. Guinea pigs in Puerto Rico probably came from Colombia and descended from Colombian guinea pigs. This one. So, therefore, back a sentence. Because the trade connected Puerto Rico with Colombia, no trade connecting no trade connecting Puerto Rico with Peru, then we can start going this. What would weaken this? Because if we found some sort of connection between Puerto Rico and Peru, all right, ancient guinea pigs in Puerto Rico were genetically less similar to ancient guinea pigs in Colombia than to ancient guinea pigs in Peru. We want to weaken it. Guinea pigs in. So we would weaken this by finding a connection. That's what we're looking for. Genetically less similar. I'll table him for a moment. I like him. I like the way that looks. Guinea pigs are common in ancient Puerto Rican art, especially in pottery. Absolutely absurd. I have no idea where that would come from. Modern brains of guinea pigs don't look like images. This would trash all of them when we're trying to weaken the claim. I don't know what this would do. The guinea pig population of ancient Colombia was much larger. That there were more in Colombia than there were more of ancient Peru. No. This getting access would be this. The similarity between that, absolutely perfect. Pick it and move on. What's the researcher's hypothesis? Interactions indicating high level of cognitive engagement with an ad conduct result in relatively high. So if high engagement, then high recall. If high engagement, users are interacted with an ad were much more likely to do so by clicking on the ad like button than they were. Nope, we want some notion of recall. Users who interact with the ad were significantly less likely to purchase the advertised product at the time they saw the ad than they used. Nope, at the time I want recall, so at some later date, compared with a user who clicked on, like, users who commented on the same ad were significantly more likely to remember seeing the ad when surveyed 2 days later. This does engage with the concept of recall. I move to the next one. Although users who shared an ad were likely to remember details from the ad when surveyed 2 days later, I think the answer is C. What was he like? Clicked versus commented. Does this engage with the concept of engagement? I'm going to go back a sentence. Commented. Yeah, absolutely. C is the right answer. We have the difference in engagement here. They were more likely to remember it. Pick it and move on. We want to use data from the table to complete the sentiment, the statement, I mean. Oh, we have 2 questions. I was panicking. No reason to panic. So we'll take our time. The time between consecutive pulses of a rat is referred to as a period. Looking at the table, the student determines what? 03, which one? 6:14:03 has the shortest amount of time between consecutive pulses. Okay. 03 and plus 45:03 have the same amount of time between consecutive pulses. None of these are the same. 2335 has the longest amount of time. No. This is not the longest. This is somewhere in the middle. 5 minutes is fine. Relax. 54 and 53 have more than 1 second of time. No. This one does. This one doesn't. Was it really just this one? JR 603 has the shortest amount of time between consecutive pulses. This is the smallest number. Fine. Then we've got our final question. Let's grab this final sentence to see what we're logically completing the sucker with. What are we logically completing the sucker with? A little bit. It's being so rude. Doesn't want me to win. So she said, if tusks mattered so much, then, I know I'm not doing much of a nice job, but you can go back a sentence. If tusks mattered so much, I'm going to start trying to engage. If tusks mattered so much, then some narwhals would seek a new habitat. Fewer marine animals would also have tusks. If tusks are so important, then fewer. This seems to just disagree with the general premise, right? If tusks were so good, then fewer would have them. No, they're so good, more would have them. This makes C seem pretty attractive because it seems to be an idea antithetical to this, but I'm not going to pick it. Narwhals would become less shy over time. These poor little guys, they need to go out to little narwhal parties. If tusks were so important, then they wouldn't be so shy. That seems whack, and I'm going to kill it. These 2 ideas, I'm going to go back an idea because they seem tempting. Bias for C suggested that tusks may help narwhals determine whether the water on them is likely to start freezing and become dangerous for them. She said this is a stupid idea. If they were so important, then more would have them. Yeah, I absolutely love C. I could see the temptation for A, but as we dig into A, this sum, let's slice it in 2 different ways. If we say that some narwhals are the ones without the tusks, I could see while it would be bad for them, but they wouldn't seek a new habitat. They would just die. Then I could go on the other lens where if the sum had the tusks, would they seek a new habitat? They wouldn't seek a new habitat because they could just navigate the environment. Plus, most would just die if it were that essential, right? So it's got to be C here. C is the right answer. Pick it, move on. Absolutely done. Too easy. And we took time for fun. GG's.